This is special COVID-19 coverage on Your Health, a podcast of the Integrated Health and Social Services University Network for West Central Montreal.
Well, hi there and welcome to another episode of the Your Health podcast. This is ongoing special COVID-19 coverage. I'm your host, Sean McMahon, reminding you to listen anytime and anywhere at cuswestcentral.ca/podcast and on all your favorite podcast platforms. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Today, we dive deep into an immense project, an impressive project, more than a week inside the Jewish General Hospital, more than 40 hours of raw footage, including hours and hours of gripping interviews, countless hours of editing, all to capture the intense essence of what it truly was like inside the JGH at the very height of the COVID-19 pandemic. That was the task for journalist Dominique Forget and her team for a special report on the show Découverte on Radio-Canada. To take us behind the scenes of her behind-the-scenes work, she joins us on the Your Health podcast. Dominique, thanks for taking the time. Hello.
Thank you. Hi, Sean.
So great to have you with us. I thought this was phenomenal television, Dominique. Really intense, emotional stuff. We saw images from within the emergency department and the intensive care unit. But for you, what were your expectations before getting in there for the first time? And how did those expectations maybe change after spending all that time inside the JGH, Dominique?
Well, the first morning we showed up, the cameraman and I think we were both a little bit nervous. Excited in some way because we were going to be witness of something that was just unprecedented in the history of health, and the Jewish in Quebec was where it was going on. So we felt extremely lucky and privileged to be able to go inside the hospital and to film those images, to share them with all our viewers, and images that are going to be available for tens and maybe, I hope, maybe 100 years from now, people will look at them and, still remember this period of where healthcare workers were just at the heart of this incredible pandemic. At the same time, we were a little bit nervous because, we didn't know if we caught the virus, what impact it would have on our health. But as soon as we started filming, I would say we felt very safe. With the teams, we felt that, all measures were being taken to ensure our safety, the safety of the personnel and of patients, of course.
There were a lot of goosebump moments in what we saw. Dominique, when you think back to everything you witnessed, everything you heard, I'm sure it changed you as a journalist, but also as a person too. What was the moment for you, the one that stood out the most?
Well, definitely there was this moment when we were in the emergency room and a patient arrived in cardiac arrest. And we saw how COVID changed so many things for the healthcare workers. They couldn't just rush to him as they usually would. They have to take a lot of precautions, and that's just to keep personnel safe. Otherwise, they could lose a huge amount of people on their team. So, and it was pretty amazing to see all the healthcare workers work together to treat these patients with a lot of dignity, a lot of professionalism. It was a context of high tension. There was this patient that was not doing well at all, but at the same time, it was relatively calm because we felt that, all the doctors and nurses, the RT were working together. They knew what they had to do. And it was just amazing to see them work. It was like seeing an artist at work. They were really mastering their craft and their art of treating this patient.
And given the fact that this was all so unprecedented, Dominique, did you get the sense while you were in there that you were acting as more than a journalist, almost as a historian in some way?
Definitely. For us, we're a science show at Découverte, and usually what we do is explain concepts or, popularize science so people will grasp things that are complicated. But with this show, we wanted to do something really different. We wanted to give a portrait of the healthcare workers who are really on the front line. And not only the healthcare workers, yes, doctors and nurses and RTs, but we also had housekeeping workers and even engineers who transformed the hospital to make it safer. And yes, it's definitely a set moment in time that I think people will look back in many, many years from now, maybe 100 years from now, and look back and remember this pandemic, and to be able to see how things were going on inside the Jewish, which was the main hospital, receiving patients with COVID. I think it has a high historical value. Yes.
Finally, for those who will never get the chance to see and feel and experience everything that you did while you were in there with your team, what would you like them to know about this pandemic? What did you learn?
Well, I think anybody who has been, watching the news knows how dedicated the healthcare workers have been throughout this whole pandemic. But to be inside and speak with them and see it firsthand is really something that's going to stick with me. And I hope everybody who watches the story will take that away. And people who've seen it, it just aired yesterday, but a lot of people who talked to me, that's what they said. They were just in awe in front of the dedication and the sacrifices that these workers make, not only when they're on the job, but also when they're at home, because some of them are isolating from their family to a certain extent. So it's a lot of stress. They have to adapt fast to changing conditions all the time, and I'm just in awe of their work and dedication. And that I think is what I would like people to take home with them after seeing the documentary.
Interesting. Well, big shout out to the entire crew at Découverte for putting together an incredible report filled with so much emotion. And I think I speak for all of us at RCUS when I say that you represented our colleagues quite beautifully. People who continue to work so hard through all of this. It hasn't been easy, but they're doing such a great job. Also, if you missed this special episode of Découverte, the easiest way to find it is on their show page at ici.radio-canada.ca. Or you can also find it on our CIUS West Central Montreal social media pages. Dominique Forget, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for joining us on the Your Health podcast.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to special COVID-19 coverage on Your Health, a podcast of the Integrated Health and Social Services University Network for West Central Montreal. Don't forget to subscribe at ciuswestcentral.ca/podcast or on your favorite podcast platform.